So this is Mario, our graduate engineer, and Terence, our senior chemical engineer. And Mario is going to share with us the small job that he just recently done. So Mario, what was the job about?
The job was about testing pressure filters for a client that operates a public pool, and basically the filters help clean the water from the pool.
Cool. So you had to collect samples from a closed filter. How did you get the samples?
There's a hatch at the top of the filter that you can access, and basically you drive a PVC pipe into the sand filter, and with a bit of luck you should be able to get a clean sample.
Cool. Show us some sample here.
Okay. So this is a typical sample of the filter sand. As you can tell, it doesn't look like there's anything too unusual about it. Just a nice clean sample of sand. No sludge balls, no organic matter that you can tell. Yeah.
Cool. And what tests are we doing on this sand?
We're going to be testing for organic matter, and we're also going to do a particle size test to check how much the filter media itself has degraded from. We've also done some solids retention tests, which is basically where you check how much sludge and other dirt and silt is in the sample. So as you can see here, there's no layer of silt on top of the sand or any sludge. It's a very clean sample of just sand and water.
Cool. Thank you, Mario. So those tests on the sand are going to be laboratory tests. You've got some jars here. What tests are we doing here?
These are testing for solids retention. So Terry, if you'd like to explain a bit about this test.
Right, so solids retention tests, basically testing for muck and gunk that's held on the sand. As the filter operates, it accumulates sludge essentially. Generally, you take a sample of the sand, you put it in some water, you shake it up, and you have a look at how much sludge comes off the sand. So you can see there that's really clean. And while you might think that's good, it's actually not so great. You're supposed to have a slight layer of sludge there anyway. Because when a sand filter operates, it ripens, so it gathers a small amount of sludge into itself, and it essentially filters better because it reduces the void space. This would generally mean that either the filters aren't ripening properly, or the sample was taken fairly soon after a backwash. We probably need to do a little bit more investigation to actually work out which was which.
Cool. That's very interesting. Thank you very much for that, Terry. Thanks, Mario.
Thank you.
We're here today with Elena, one of our process engineers. Elena, Simmons and Bristow do a fair bit of field work. Is it normal to use an engineer in this role?
No, it is unusual. The engineers and senior professionals are usually used on jobs where they have to make decisions or do some sort of troubleshooting while they're collecting the samples. And that was a case with Mario with sampling the large filters.
So you would say that you only use them for more complicated jobs. What about simple or routine work?
That's right. So usually all the routine work that we do month to month that doesn't require a lot of decision making on the spot is done by our field officers who are fully trained in environmental sampling, or by the operators.
You mentioned that Mario recently sampled some large filters. Can you give us a little bit more detail about what he went through for that?
So there were large closed pressure filters that he managed to collect the samples of the media from the outside of the filter. He didn't have to enter the filter itself. So he just collected the samples, analyzed them, sent them for analysis in the field, and did some of his own testing in the lab here.
So what would have been different if he had to get into the filter?
If it was a more in-depth study where several samples had to be collected from the filter, confined space entry would be required, and for that, in that case, Mario wouldn't suit to be a sampler. In that case, we would probably draw onto the resources at APCO Australia, our partner, who have a team of fully trained and qualified first aid and confined space entry people, and they would then do the sampling, and we would just oversee it from the engineering and scientific point of view. It's really good to have the varied team where we can call on each other's experience.